Hello and welcome back to Dragon Quest World Tutorials. I am GZ, and in this video I want to go over the top 10 weapons of 2024 that I do not have in my inventory. So in 2024, I really felt like I was not getting a lot of the weapons throughout the entire year, but pretty much when it happened, of the 24 weapons that were released in during this year, I was actually able to get half of them, so that is going to be 24 of them, 12 of them. So in this video, I want to go over the top 10 weapons that I did not get during this year. So since there are 12 weapons that I did not get this year, there are going to be 2 that did not make this list. So those weapons are going to be Drango's Battle Axe and the Mirage at 11th and 12th place respectively, mainly not making the top 10 due to relevance beyond the events that they appeared in and not having any abilities to combat against metal type enemies. So pretty much that's the reason there, but now I want to go into my list. So pretty much at number 10, I'm going to have the Heavenly Staff of the World Tree Time. So this weapon was featured in the 4.5 anniversary event and was the final weapon from that event. So like Drango's Battle Axe, this was very effective weapon against Killer Majinger, as it was able to not only do impressive EO spell damage to the enemy, but also remove an enemy buff as well with Luminous Rain spell. So the sudden activation abilities on the weapon were also useful, as they both increase the wielder's spell power, but also increase either the wielder's duration of their buffs, or the characters on either side of the wielder depending on the time of day. So that's going to be that weapon there. Then at number 9, I'm going to have the Lurita Whip. So this weapon came out during the 5th anniversary Eve event and introduced us to the Misfortune debuff, which in this weapon's case increased the rate at which direct hits and critical hits were inflicted on an enemy. So this weapon also had an attack that does straight physical technique damage to an enemy with the chance of causing misfortune. Also has a Dane-based physical technique that does damage to enemies, including metal ones. So the sudden activation abilities are pretty good as well, since one has a chance of inflicting a random enemy with misfortune at the start of battle, while the other increases the evasion rate of all party members for 1 or 2 turns. At number 8, I'm going to have the Thunder Sword. So this weapon was also the first 3, 2, 1. And at number 8 here, I have the Thunder Sword. So this weapon was the first weapon of the 4.5 year anniversary, and was the second weapon of the year that featured abilities that had 2 attributes to it. So this was mainly useful for the main ability called Jigo Spark. So as it made the weapon very useful in the Journey of Awakening that came out at that time as well. So the particular Journey of Awakening had daytime, nighttime enemies, with one set of enemies being weak to Dane and the other set being weak to Dorma. So with Jigo Spark, you could use the weapon for any time of the day, as it was effective on both enemy types. So the weapon also had an ability for dealing with metal type enemies, which also made it useful. But beyond the Journey of Awakening, I have not really seen a real use for this weapon, as there are other weapons that can be a bit more effective. So that's pretty much going to be what I think of the Thunder Sword. At number 7, I'm going to have the 3 Dragon Brigham Whip. So this weapon came out very recently, and very similar to the Thunder Sword, is specifically for dealing with enemies in a Journey of Awakening. Also, like the Thunder Sword, it has abilities that does damage to with 2 different attributes. So in the case of this weapon, those attributes are going to be Merda and Boggy. So the Hellcaster Journey of Awakening has many dragon type enemies, especially this special enemy that randomly appears after a battle. This weapon not only gives you an extra damage to dragons, but also gives you the initiative in having your party take their actions before the dragon type enemies. The weapon does have an ability that deals damage to metal type enemies, but it's not as much damage as some other weapons. So again, this weapon is going to be most effective in the Hellcaster Journey of Awakening. Then at number 6, I'm going to have the Summer Memory. So this healing weapon was featured in the Summer 2024 campaign and was a weapon that I was very interested in getting. So this weapon has the ability called Summer Beach Behomata. So with this, it costs 63 MP, and what it does is spinning like a dreamlike moment on the beach. This uses a spell to recover the HP of all allies. Further, it brings back an ally that had been blown away and cures an ally of being charmed. So pretty much also besides that, it gives the wielder a protective shield at the start of the battle and also has a resurrection spell as well. So while I do deem this weapon to be good, there is a better healing weapon that is higher on this list that I would like to have gotten. Then at number 5, I have the Rain Cloud Staff. So the Rain Cloud Staff, this weapon was featured during the 5th anniversary event. It was introduced along with the Druid special class. So this weapon was the first to have the newest attribute, which is going to be Zaba. So which made it very useful against the enemies that appeared at the time, especially against Hokuto rulers. Besides the Zaba attribute, it also has a Merida spell that not only does spell damage to enemies, but also does pretty good damage to metal enemies as well. So this is one of the few spells that actually does damage to metal type enemies, with the others being Dragrum, which is featured on the Dragon Staff, and Midoroda Destruction on the Uroboros Staff. The sudden activation ability of Follow-Up Rainbow is also quite good as well, since it randomly performs a spell with the attribute most effective against enemies after a skill has been performed. At number 4, I'm going to have the Principle of Destruction. So this weapon came out around Golden Week and is a spell-based weapon. So while it does not have any abilities that deals damage to metal type enemies, this weapon is high up on this list because there's a serious lack of Jabadia-based weapons in the game, especially for spells. So before this weapon, we had the Aurora Staff, which did do well in specific battles, but was mainly created for the Alchemy Journey Slime Edition. So while I did not acquire this weapon, I saw how much potential it had in its main Jabadia spell for attacking one enemy. Not only that, the power of the spell can be increased tremendously with buffs that can be put on the wielder, making it able to do Uroboros staff type damage or even better. So this weapon is high up on my list, and I see a lot of potential for it in the future, and would have been perfect being paired with the Fallen Angel's Coffin. After that, my number 3 weapon is going to be Grizzard's Razor Fang. So this weapon came out after the 5th anniversary event and was the second banner that was dedicated to the Druid special class. So the Druid's expertise is both in spells and breath damage, so the natural skills of the Druid and the abilities of this weapon made it a force to be reckoned with. So its main ability is Glacial Howl. So with that, costs 63 MP, does massive Shadow or Zaba breath damage to all enemies with a very rare chance to blow them away. If the enemy is a beast, it's just a rare chance for them to get blown away. So being blown away is very good, as is almost like an instant kill. And then besides that, it's also going to have Kokudo's Breath, which in this case with Cold Fangs of Ice, this does massive shadow breath damage to one enemy, plus 99 damage to a metal type enemy. So with the damage to this metal type enemies like this, this weapon was pretty much made for taking out the latest metal type enemy, which is going to be the Metal Devil. So this weapon is also good as it has a sudden activation ability that gives enemies the freeze level 1 debuff, which lowers their initiative during battle and makes them more susceptible to shadow-based attacks. Then at number 2, we're going to have the Mysterious Crystal. So the Mysterious Crystal was the second EX weapons type featured in the game after the Flail of Destruction, but it is best used when on a character that is good at healing. What makes this weapon quite good is that it, as a support weapon, it can do it all. So it can do pretty much everything that you would want in a support weapon. So it can resurrect with Zaoraru, so revive a fallen ally for 50% HP. It's going to have Healing Divination, which is a healing spell. So with the crystal displaying Soothing Future, it allows it all allies recover HP and have a very rare chance of increasing attack or spell power. Then in terms of buffs, it has Lucky Taro, which takes 5% of your max MP. This increases the attack or spell power of one allied by 2 ranks, and depending on the result of the fortune, the character has a chance of getting a limit break as well as another increase to attack or spell power. Then it's also going to be able to use debuffs, so in this case Bad Omen Taro. So with this, depending on the fortune of the tarot card, a specific debuff is put on all enemies and has a very rare chance of ignoring enemy resistances to that debuff. So besides that, the wielder is also bestowed with protection against debuffs for 2 to 4 turns at the start of the battle. So again, this weapon is very good due to it being able to resurrect, heal, buff, and debuff effectively. Then my number 1 weapon of 2024 that I did not get is going to be the Dark Robes of Black Flame. So this weapon was the final weapon of the Dragon Quest III Rewalk event during the early summer. So this was the 3rd EX weapon featured in the game, with it being best suited for characters that are spellcasters. So what makes this weapon stand out among the others on this list is Disruption Wave. So if you remember, Disruption Wave was one of the abilities that all the major bosses in the game had that you didn't have, and remove the buffs of all your characters. Now you have your chance of doing the same to those enemies, though there are some exceptions to what buffs can be removed from the enemy. So this ability alone gives you a very good advantage in battle and can truly make the difference of a win or a loss. So then also this particular weapon had a very good shadow spell called Mahadidos, which is going to pretty much do massive shadow spell damage to all enemies. So this ability is quite effective in battles where you're fighting multiple enemies that are weak to the shadow attribute, such as Hogura's Journeys of Awakening and also Alchemy Journeys. So pretty much that's going to be my list for the top 10 weapons of 2024 that I don't have. So yeah, so that's pretty much going to be it. So a lot that I had to think about in terms of making this list, but I think this is exactly how I would have this list. So my video on the top 10 weapons of 2024 that I do have will be coming out soon, and I will most likely be doing a video going over the updates from December 26th at the end of the year campaign, so please stay tuned for that. But with that said, I'm going to end this video here, so thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.